The one question we have with John Brown is his health. We know that he is the clear-cut number 2 wide receiver for the Ravens. I view Crabtree as the number 1. You could argue if he's the 1 or the 2, but I would say like the traditional 1, the possession receiver is Crabtree. I think Crabtree's going to get more targets overall in the season. But I think that John Brown, his targets are going to be more valuable. He's going to see those deep bombs. We saw in that last preseason game. How did they open the game? How did they want to establish the game? It's chucking it deep. Think about the Ravens offense. You think about Joe Flacco, who will be the starter this season. Loves to chuck it deep because they know, hey, a lot of those plays end up in a penalty and you get the yards anyways. John Brown is awesome deep. He's going to excel in this offense. All he needs to do is stay healthy. And what don't we do? We don't predict injuries. We're not sitting here in the 13th round saying, well, John Brown can't stay healthy, so I can't draft him. I'm going to draft some other guy that has no upside. No, John Brown has a ton of upside. He's projected around, depending on the site you use, depending on if you think he's the 1 or the 2, basically, 90 to 100 targets. That's where I have him at, like 90 to 100 targets. And guess what? Let's say week 8, 9 comes along and he does get hurt. You don't have to start him because he's your 13th round pick. You're probably not starting him anyways. But the upside he presents is immense. He will get, if he plays all 16 or we'll say 15 games this season, he will have 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. That's going to happen. If John Brown isn't like, a decoy and just hobbled around for 3 games, if he plays 15 healthy weeks, he will have 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. And there's not many players you can say that about in the 13th round as wide receiver 68. There is no chance in the world, unless he gets hurt, that he doesn't beat wide receiver 68. That makes him a steal. If you're sitting there, even in the 11th round, this is a phenomenal pick. In the 10th round, this is a phenomenal pick. He's going to be involved in the red zone. He's going to be involved between the 20s. He's going to be involved deep down the field, everywhere in that offense, and they like to throw the football. So absolutely epic pick. I have no idea how he's going this late. I thought it would increase, but it's just not. He's just staying stagnant, not going anymore, and you guys have your drafts coming up, so he's going to be available late. Next guy who is starting to creep up a little bit because people are starting to pay attention to the preseason is Peyton Barber. And he's honestly one of the best picks, definitely at the running back spot, probably one of the best picks in the draft right now. Everyone loves Ronald Jones. I take that back. Some people love Ronald Jones. I think there was an infatuation. Is that even a word? We'll say it's a word right now. With Jones coming out of the draft because he's so young, and he's so quick. But that's about it. That's all he's got going for him right now. And he's just not that good at being a running back and in the NFL right now. Like, he's going to be good. He's extremely young. He'll be fine in his career, but not this season. Don't you dare draft Ronald Jones this season. Look at the first team snaps in the preseason. We don't try and, have these super hot takes in the preseason. We don't try and look at it like it's the end all be all. But what we do pay attention to is who's playing with who. Who's out there with Tom Brady? Who's out there with Drew Brees? Well, in the first team offense, Peyton Barber has 25 snaps, Shaquiz Rogers has 6, and Ronald Jones has 3. You say, all right, well, to be honest, that should be enough for you. How have they done? Have they done with these snaps? Peyton Barber, 10 carries, 53 yards, a touchdown, and 3 receptions on 3 targets. Okay, so he has done amazing on the ground. He's gotten the touchdown, and he's involved in the passing game. Ronald Jones, 12 carries for 11 yards, got a touchdown, 2 drops on his only 2 targets. The only 2 times they've thrown him the football, he has dropped it. That was an issue coming out of college. We knew he can't catch. Maybe he was working on it. Nope. He still stinks at catching. Another thing to say, hey, don't you dare draft Ronald Jones in your drafts. Now you say, oh, okay, well, is Peyton Barber going to get third down? Because I know this man named Charles Sims. Yeah, so Charles Sims has 5 carries for 6 yards, no first team snaps, and 0 targets. Peyton Barber has 3 down potential. Maybe they throw in Jones. Like, they're going to. They're going to have Jones involved in the offense in some way on first and second downs. It's going to be to give Barber a break because we know there's very few running backs who have the whole, there's no one like Le'Veon Bell and Todd Gurley and Ezekiel Elliott out there that you're getting in the 12th round. Everyone comes off the field. So when Barber's tired, when we don't want him out there, he's going to be inefficient, he's going to come off the field. That's about it. He's going to be the starter. He's going to be the third down back. He has a tough schedule. That is the one thing that we will say pump the brakes on, because they're going to lose a lot of games. But we thought that was a huge issue because he wasn't going to be catching. But he was catching the ball late last season, and he's been targeted, and he's been good in the receiving game in the preseason. So it might not be as bad as we once thought, because I was off of him under the impression that they're not going to be able to run the football much, especially early in the season, and then maybe Jones would take over in the second half, so where was the Barber pick? Well, that narrative is kind of getting thrown out the door. Jones looks like he's going to take at least a year to take over if he ever does. And Barber looks like he can catch, so even in a negative game script, that's almost more beneficial to a pass catching back. Would you rather have your guy have 20 carries, or would you rather him have 15 carries but get extra, 3-4 targets? It's more valuable to have those targets. So I think he's a great pick, and I also want to point out that he's $41 in week 1 on DraftKings. I'll point out again, I put it out on Twitter, week 1 legitimately so far looks like the easiest week I have ever seen. Now, it's easy for everyone, but lineup construction, you can do whatever you want. I've already made a Tom Brady, Antonio Brown, Gronk, Keenan Allen lineup. I've already done that, and it was really easy, and I had extra money. So week 1 is just insane with the amount of value, but definitely look Barber's way if you're playing week 1, and definitely look at him in cash. From my initial look, I'll obviously have the video, I'll have the premium article on it, but looks great so far. Looks great in redraft as well. So let's go to number 3, and it's Austin Hooper. Going as tight end 17 in the 13th round. I don't understand why, because a lot of the people going ahead of him just have no upside. And Hooper isn't going to beat Gronk. He's not going to beat Kelsey, but he was great last season. And I don't think people know that he's young, but I don't think people realize how young he is. He's about to turn 24. He hasn't turned it yet. He's about to turn 24 years old. Number 2 in average yards of separation last season, an elite production premium. He has elite red zone efficiency. He's a phenomenal tight end weapon that they are going to use more this season. He was much more productive than his rookie year. We always throw the rookie year out for tight ends. We never draft rookie tight ends. The only way they work out is with Evan Ingram when your entire offense falls apart. But for that to happen to a rookie tight end, you literally need your 4 starting wide receivers to get hurt. And that's probably the only time it's ever even happened. So we throw that first season out. He did much better last season. And the numbers are attainable. Tight ends don't do anything. That's what I always say. Unless you have, Gronk, Kelsey, Ertz, what is your tight end doing for you? That's why I don't draft the middle range of tight ends. I love some of them as players, and I love what they could do this season for their offense. But why would you draft a tight end in the 7th and 8th rounds? Why would you do that to yourself? Because Kyle Rudolph was the tight end 6 last season. You're oh, cool. If I can get the tight end 6, in the middle rounds, that's good, right? 532 yards and 8 touchdowns was tight end 6 last season. Just put that into perspective. That is easily attainable for Austin Hooper. And that's honestly attainable for a few of the tight ends going in that 15 to 25 range. Tight ends are all going to finish within a point or 2 per game of each other. There's just no difference between tight end 6-7 range and tight end 15-16. When we're drafting these guys, you have to realize the production they're actually going to do isn't that different. That's why it's the same thing for quarterbacks. You take quarterbacks late. I'll talk about a quarterback in a second you should take late, because the difference between that mid-range and the lower end range is nothing. There's no difference. So use the least amount of capital as possible. Austin Hooper could easily finish as a top 5 tight end, and he's going as tight end 17. So he allows you, and taking another quarterback late allows you to pick wide receivers with your first 12 picks. You can have 6 running backs and 6 wide receivers locked up, then take Hooper, then take Marcus Mariota. Easy. It is super easy to make that construction, and it still leaves you upside. I have Mariota ranked as the quarterback 11, and he's going as quarterback 20 in the 12th round. And honestly, it depends on your league, because some leagues, Quarterback 20, that's not even drafted. Maybe only 18, 17 quarterbacks even get drafted in some leagues. I'm going off of 12-team leagues here for 12th round, but I know in my 12-team league, there have been seasons where only, 16, 17 quarterbacks even got drafted, because why would you draft 2 quarterbacks? It makes no sense. So he goes undrafted sometimes. He has Corey Davis, Taywan Taylor, Shard Matthews, Delaney Walker, Dion Lewis, Derrick Henry. They have a lot of weapons on that offense. They're finally going away from that horrendous offense they've been running the past 2 seasons. They're going to air it out this season, and I think they're going to put up numbers. Mariota is an awesome quarterback, and guess what? He's mobile, and mobile quarterbacks give you free points. The ability of mobile quarterbacks is so understated in the fantasy football community. It's great when a guy throws for like 350 yards and a few touchdowns, but I always bring up Jared Goff when talking about this because Goff's going to get you like 20 total rushing yards the whole season. So he needs to throw for like 4,500 yards to pay off because he's doing nothing on the ground and he's not really a high volume touchdown passer. So when you have a guy like Mariota who's going to run for 300 to 400 yards and 4 to 7 touchdowns, that's huge. Because look what he did last season. 13 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. That's dreadful. We know without a shadow of a doubt, unless he breaks his leg, he's going to produce better than 13 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. And guess what? Because of his rushing ability, he was able to finish as quarterback 18 last season. So we saw the rock bottom of Marcus Mariota last season, and it was 2 spots higher than he's being drafted. That's absolutely insane value. If you're ever looking for a quarterback and they're flying off the board and you see Marcus Mariota, just take him because you know it's going to pay off. I legitimately don't see a scenario, unless he gets hurt, since we don't predict that, I don't see a scenario that he doesn't pay off this ADP. And if you can assemble a team of guys who I can't envision a scenario where they don't pay off their ADP, you're going to make the playoffs. That's all that matters. Make the playoffs, make smart waiver moves, and you're going to set yourself up for a potential championship run. But all we got to do is make the playoffs, and Mariota is going to bring you there. The last guy, and I swear, if some of you click off this video after seeing Dez Bryant, I'm going to cry. Wide receiver 57 in the 12th round. Dez Bryant is going to play this season. He wants to play for a championship team. I don't know if that's going to happen. That's not, up to Dez. Like, it's up to the team that's going to offer him a contract. But run through a few of them. The Patriots could use a wide receiver. The Packers could use an outside wide receiver. The 49ers could use an outside wide receiver. Where's he going if we hear in a few days that he signs with one of those teams? It's probably like the 4th round, right? It's roughly the 4th round is where he'd be going. But he's going as wide receiver 57. Nobody, even I brought up John Brown, nobody has that kind of upside in the 12th round. We've already done the video, and I mention it almost every other video. What do you look for in the 12th round? Upside. I don't care if a guy is locked into 800 yards and 5 touchdowns. I don't care if he exceeds his value by like 5. If we have a wide receiver 57 is roughly where you're at in the 12th round, and you can guarantee me he's going to finish at wide receiver 40, I don't want it. If you're telling me he's going to, with 100% of certainty he's going to finish as wide receiver 40, I don't want that. I'd rather take a shot on Dez, who could finish as wide receiver 1 million because he doesn't play. I'd much rather take that as a pick. Because then when I find out he doesn't sign, I drop him, and I add someone else with upside. And if that doesn't work, I drop them, and I add someone else with upside. Because I'm going to hit at some point in the season, and that's what matters, is when you hit. Some things that people throw out is, 1, we're going to get out of the way. Injuries, don't predict them. Next, he's old. He's old? What? He's 29 years old. Old? He's younger than Antonio Brown. He's the same age as Julio Jones and Doug Baldwin. I've never heard someone call them old, but all of a sudden Dez Bryant's old? I think people, I don't know if they think he's like 35. I don't understand. He's 29. He's not old. He's right outside the range where we predict guys to have the best seasons of their career, but I'm not predicting him to have the best season of his career because that would take like 1,600 yards and 17 touchdowns. Yeah, if I thought he was going to do that, I'd be taking him in the 2nd round, but I obviously don't think that's going to happen. But what did he do last season? Because everyone says he stunk last year, right? Wide receiver 25. He was a low-end 2, essentially. Wide receiver 25, but he's old and he stunk last year. Well, he's not old, and apparently a lot of wide receivers stunk last year because wide receiver 25, he's going as wide receiver 57. And that was not a good offense last year. It was not a high-volume offense last year. He is being drafted behind Mohamed Sanu and Danny Amendola. It's not the playoffs, guys. We're not starting Danny Amendola. Why on earth would you draft Danny Amendola and Mohamed Sanu over Dez Bryant? I don't care what happens. I legitimately don't care if he has 0 receptions this season. That's a bad pick. Taking Mohamed Sanu and Danny Amendola ahead of him is a bad pick. You're going to drop half of your team. That's a newsflash for you guys. That's what I've seen. Looking back at rosters, you're going to drop half of your team. So be prepared for that. Shoot for upside. No one else has more upside than Dez Bryant in the 12th round. So why are we drafting guys with no upside? You're going to be kicking yourself when you look back at the draft and the dude signed with the Patriots and he's pulling down touchdowns from Tom Brady, or he signed with the Packers and he's pulling them down from Rodgers, or he signed with the 49ers and Jimmy G's throwing him touchdowns. You're going to be kicking yourself because you realize you drafted some guy that's a third stringer on like the Jaguars over Dez Bryant in the 12th round. So that's my list. Let me know what you guys think of the list. Let me know of guys, because there's plenty of other people I could have included on here. Let me know who you guys are targeting late in drafts. I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking. But I wanted to gear this more towards late in the draft because that's where we see the best value, and that's where we need to focus our time because the early rounds aren't that hard. We see so much information on them, and they're all decent players that no one's an insane value at this point. But everyone on this list is an absolutely epic value. So that's the end of this one. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, how about we hit that like button? How about we subscribe if we're new? Thanks for watching.